Thanks everyone for joining us. It's Bet from AusCert. I'm speaking without a camera, so you can't see me, but you can see the wonderful Lydia, who is presenting for us today. She's the expert in all things presentations and submitting to conferences. So I'm going to throw over to you, Lydia. Thank you for helping us.
Oh, thanks for having us. Oh, thanks for having me, I should say, and I appreciate AusCert giving me another opportunity to talk through these slides again this year. I am upset because I can't see my presentation notes, so that was a bit, and that's a bit annoying. But anyway, so last year we kicked off this a little bit later. This year, Beck and I have decided to, or she's approached me to run this a little bit earlier. The submission process for AusCert closes at the end of January, so that gives us plenty of time to really put our thinking caps on and just have a bit of a chat about what people are working on, what they're thinking of submitting, and then how to submit, how to get that review board attention to go, oh yeah, this is something that we really think AusCert will benefit from. Last year when we spoke about this, it was a little bit more just generic conference focused. This year it's very AusCert focused. So everyone that's on the call, we're hoping that you're going to submit something to AusCert this year, and this will give you a bit of a toolkit or a tool set to sort of make you feel confident and enabled to go ahead and do that. Okay, give us 1 second because I'm using the wrong keyboard. There we go. Beck, I'll actually hand this over to you because I know you like to do this.
Just for a bit of fun, I can't see that slide. I can only see the first slide.
Oh no. What can everyone else see? Share this tab instead. Hang on a second. There we go. Hang on. Can you see that?
There we go. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Damn.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
We're getting there. Finding out the bugs.
So yes, AusCert through the University of Queensland acknowledges the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands on which we meet. We pay our respects to their ancestors and the descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country. We recognise their valuable contributions to Australian and global society.
Okay. So we're all here. Why AusCert? So one of the things, or a couple of things that I really love about AusCert, and Beck, definitely jump in. We know that AusCert is a community-focused conference. So that means that there's a conference. It's a conference that gives to the community, listens to the community, and obviously wants to provide knowledge and uplift to the community. Some of the things that I personally love about AusCert and a lot of the conferences in Australia-wide is providing assistance to speakers. So if you feel that there is a reason why you may need assistance, it could be that perhaps you're interstate, perhaps you're a student, whatever your circumstances are, you can obviously put some information around why that program may help you. And the Speaker Mentor program, it's a program that I love and we've run for years for different other conferences. I think many of us in IT, security, or in general just aren't natural born speakers. And a lot of us feel that when we present, it's the slides that we're presenting, but it's actually you that you're presenting and the information that you're presenting. The slides are there really just to just sort of complement you. So any conference that provides that speaker mentoring program, massive thumbs up to me. That's why I put the thumbs up there. And then of course my favorite, it's on the Gold Coast. So why wouldn't you want to come and speak to AusCert at AusCert, because you're on the Gold Coast, so you can be like him, happy. So Beck, I don't know if we're planning to run AusCert on the beach this year, but definitely something to put on the cards for next year, maybe or the year after. I hope you all laughed in the background. I know everyone's on mute. A little bit about me. I'm not going to flog this too much. Why am I qualified to speak about submissions? I suppose I've been in security for quite a long time. I've probably been in IT for about 25 years and security for about 20 years. I sit on a number of review boards, so probably 4 or 5 different review boards, and I can read up to 1,000 submissions a year. So I hope I know what good looks like. And I think the point of today is to sort of show what good looks like. I'm not going to say what good doesn't look like, because I don't believe in doing that, but I will talk about do's and don'ts. So hopefully that will benefit everyone. You will find me on X, I guess, as Ping Tangent, and thanks to the ComfyCon crew, I'm also called Cyber Mum. So I'm sure we're moving up to Cyber Grandma soon, but Cyber Mum's fine for now. So that's the quick spiel on me. I love reading conference papers. A lot of us will read podcasts listen to podcasts or, listen to webinars or read blogs or, there's lots of ways to upskill yourself. I find reading people's papers, because people always say to me, where do you find the time? I make time because I enjoy it. I love reading what people are working on because it makes me think, oh, have I missed something, or there's a new space, or there's something here. So I find it a real privilege and honour to read submission papers, especially where, people have put in the time. So that's a little bit about me. What are we going to do today? So last year we got a few people that were brave enough to put their hands up and we brainstormed some ideas. So we may do that today, depending on the audience and how everyone feels. But the point is just to talk about AusCert, what AusCert are looking for. I think one of the things that's really important, and I think I touch on this a little bit later, but because I can't see my notes, I don't know where later I was going to talk about it. But just because you submit something at AusCert doesn't mean that it's going to be accepted at another conference. So something that I'm really passionate about is when you're submitting at a conference, not just AusCert, but make sure that you understand what the conference ethics and ethos are about. Make sure that you're not, if for example, so if you're going to submit at a major industry conference and you've presented that talk 10 times, it's probably not going to get accepted. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad presentation. It might mean that their criteria might be a little bit different to say AusCert or a B-Sides that's run, within the Australia region. So really do your homework and make sure that when you're presenting at a conference, you know what their values are, what their ethos are. I know most conferences in Australia, AusCert, B-Sides Melbourne, the one that I run as well, we don't really care too much if it's been presented a couple of times. If it's been presented 20 times and it's on video, you can go watch it anytime on video. So you want to make sure that you're presenting value for your audience that's coming as well. So the goal of today is to sort of brainstorm some ideas. Many of you will say, I've got nothing to talk about. We'll explore that. I want this to be interactive. So please feel free to pop your hand up. Beck, if I can't see any hands up, do let me know. Let it be interactive. Let it be fun. I don't, at the moment I'm staring at a bunch of little heads and I can see myself there. So I'm very, very, very happy to be interrupted. Before I move off this agenda, just want to throw it over to Beck. Have I missed anything?
No, I think that's pretty much the goal of what we're trying to achieve today. I will just revisit how we do sponsor speakers. So if you are successful in your submission, we do cover your flights, your accommodation and your conference registrations. So that's across the board for every speaker that we have on our program. We value the contribution that you make to our program and the time and effort that you put in, and that's how we can repay that. So that's something that we're very proud to be able to do through the budget of our sponsorship.
That's awesome. Yep. And I know personally that when I am submitting to conferences, that's something I'll look out for. And again, depending on the conference, either I'll go, yes, I really want this because I'm flying from afar, or, it's not a big deal. So I think it's something that you should really consider. And if it's going to help you get to where you need to go on the next level, then, this is probably the conference for you. So definitely consider that. All right, so we're going to explore this. I'm not going to talk about this too much, but we're going to explore this probably on the next slide. I always like to talk about what's holding you back. I get discussions. I get people ping me all the time. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to talk about. And it could be any one of these. It could be that you've got multiple topics and you don't know what to talk about, or you just I don't know, but you've really got no idea. I tend to fall into this third bullet point here, believe it or not. I'm just terrified. I'm scared. I'm scared someone's going to go, oh, what she's saying is rubbish. She doesn't know what she's talking about. That's probably the biggest thing that holds me back. But I'll talk about, that's all imposter syndrome. Kick it to the curb. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, or maybe whenever anyone brings it up, we can talk about it. You might think that you don't have the expertise. That kind of rolls up into the one beforehand. And again, it's another kicker to the curb, and I'll talk about why. Or you might just want to say, look, I just want to wait a few years. And you know what? That's okay too. Or there might be another reason. I might, Beck, just open it up to the floor. If it's crickets, that's okay. Is there anything else that anyone wants to talk about that's holding them back? Is there anything on this list that they think, look, I'm not really on this list, but it might be something that you want to explore? I mean, let's see if anyone else wants to add to this list. And crickets is okay. I'll assume that it's covered. Oh, I see something. Sorry, I just saw something pop up in the chat. Beck, you might have to help me with that.
Yep, someone's just asking that, that they work in government, so they need to ask permission, so they get held up with approvals.
Yeah, and that's a real tricky one, because I've had that issue too when I've worked in the government or banking. So getting those approvals are tricky.
Yeah. Sometimes we have people that put a submission in, and so by the time that we get through all of our review and approval process, it matches up with that timeline. So maybe put it in with a disclaimer that you're waiting on approval, and then we can work with you. I'd hate for people to miss out because they are waiting on that approval first. I know that we're part of the University of Queensland, so we understand those layers of bureaucracy that you have to get through.
Yeah. I just want to answer Josh's question. Is the topic in mind too simple? Look, I think, and this is one that I get asked all the time. I often think that, and me personally, I think, well, why would anyone want to listen to this? This is done and dusted. Everyone's done it before. The one bit of advice that I can give any of you is, don't be judge and jury of your own content. Okay, you might be working on something and you've worked on it for so long that you might think, look, I know it, everyone knows it. Don't be that judge. Let the conference review board be that judge. Yeah, you might be submitting something that you may think is 101, but the AusCert team might go, do you know what? This is going to add value to the audience. The audience may get value out of it. You might present a talk on, API security, and you might think, yeah, it's been done and dusted. Well, maybe that's the feel of the conference this year. Maybe you may get a big audience that might want that refresher or understand what those layers of security are. So I think you might think it's simple, but don't let that hold you back. Let the conference decide if that is something that is going to be appropriate for the flavor of the conference that year. Don't shoot yourself before you've even given yourself an opportunity. That would be my advice to you. And again, we can obviously talk about the topic a little bit later if you want. Just having a look at the next one. I guess the only other story someone might have is the lack of, and the lack of public speaking. Absolutely. That's why there's the speaker mentoring program. So don't let that hold you back. There's lots of people that would be very happy to help peer review your talk, look through everything. And I don't really touch on it in this presentation today, but something that I do when I run the speaker mentoring program for B-Sides and Black Hat is I always say to people, don't start with slides. The slides is not what you're doing. The slides is just there to complement your talk. When we're talking about speaker mentoring, there's two things. There's the content that's going to support you, and there's that speaking out aloud, and the speaker mentoring program should address those two things. I know I'm personally very hard when I'm working with a speaker to say, okay, we've got 2-3 weeks to develop the content, and even if it's not finished, let's start rehearsing. Let's shake those nerves out. But I'm not ready. You're never going to be ready. And sometimes having that one-to-one mentoring program, it really puts you out of the comfort zone, but you feel like this energized new person at the end of it, because you've got really someone that's cheerleading for you. And it's not about wanting to see anyone fail. It's someone being in your corner and cheerleading for you, so you being ready. So the lack of public speaking, again, don't let that hold you back. AusCert have got a speaker mentoring program, so you want to use that to your advantage. I don't know, Beck, if those mentors are announced previously prior to the conference, or I don't know if there's something that you want to add on to that, because I think it's a really important factor that can limit people from submitting to conferences.
Yeah, I think you are the inspiration of why we started the mentoring program. Like, it was something that I hadn't done before this year's conference, and it was really great to see that process play out with people. And we've actually had more mentors volunteer because of them hearing about the program. But for those people that are worried about that presentation side of things, this is like just having your own little personal coach that you can practice with them. They can give you feedback. They can help you shape your presentation, make sure you're on the right track. But yeah, definitely what you were saying about shaking those nerves, having those couple of times to rehearse and get the constructive feedback, I think will really make people feel more comfortable on the day. And I know the mentors this year were really excited to then go to the presentation of their person and see them present, and they're feeling so proud to see them actually see the progress that they made and face their fears a little bit.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I appreciate that feedback, Beck. The speaker mentoring program is something that I just love, and be it AusCert or the other conferences that I run it for, seeing the confidence and the presenters at the end. Not only do you build friendships, but you just see massive transformations, and it's a real joy. It really, really is a real joy. And I don't say that because I want to say it. It's real. It's a real joy. So definitely take that opportunity up if you feel like you need that extra support. There's another question. Sorry. Can we talk something that is a different process to address a simple issue? Manu, do you want to explain that a little bit more? I'm not 100% sure what you mean. Apologies. If you feel comfortable.
I'm going to give you my interpretation, Lydia. I think it's about, if you've got a different way of doing something that sounds simple, but yeah, so like finding a different angle of doing the same thing that other people do in a different way.
Sorry, my headspace wasn't on an actual talk content. I was actually I was talking about the submission process. Yeah, that is definitely something that, it's presenting your work could be, perhaps something simple that you've done differently. We see lots of that. And, and that's a really important thing to do, because not everybody problem solves the same way. I could present something and someone may not get it, and then someone else might present the same thing in a different way and it might speak to somebody. So, absolutely, I think there's value in that. Because at the end of the day, you're there to teach somebody and they're going to walk away with something new, which I'll actually get to later in the slide. So absolutely. Let's have a look. I'm curious to find out what is the process in becoming a speaker mentor as well. We'll take that offline. Beck, you've got someone there who's obviously interested in being a mentor. So definitely reach out at the end and we can talk about that later. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's move on. So this is me. So I hate putting these pictures up, but Beck and I decided to put them up. Have spoken at some conferences internationally and locally. And I put this picture up here because I was absolutely crapping my pants. Absolutely crapping my pants. I've spoken in America, I've spoken in Canada, I've spoken in New Zealand, I've spoken here. And to this day, I still question, why did I get accepted? We can't do that to ourselves. Like, I can look back on hindsight and actually understand now why. So I guess I always say, if I can, you can. And I don't mean that to put myself down, but this is why these webinars that we're doing right now is so important, because I think that in the early days, I don't feel that I had the skill that I had now, but I felt like I had people around me that help me peer review things and help it get it in good shape, which is why, again, this is important, but the mentoring program for me is just so much more important, because they'll help you shape it. So if we can get your submission done in a way that's appealing, then the speaker program is just as good. So I think one thing that I always say, and this goes back to, whether you're talking about a simple process that's been done a little bit differently, or something that you think is a 101 topic that's been done to death, it's your work, it's your experience. Don't let anyone tell you that what you're saying is wrong, or this or that. If you've gone away and done a whole bunch of research and they're your findings and they're scientifically balanced, then they're your findings. No one can, and you can, give the evidence on that. No one can criticize that. If you're working on something, if you're working on a new project at home, or you're working on something at work, they're your findings. So let's talk about that a little bit more, because this is really the crux of this talk. So let's brainstorm. Everyone says we've got nothing to say. I can't remember what I've written down here, so apologies. So when you're thinking about submitting to AusCert is such a friendly conference. You don't have to present something that's brand new, never been presented before. That's not what this conference is about. It's a community conference. You're there to share your experience and help others learn and uplift. Actually, before I go into that, Beck, why don't you talk about the feel of some of the talks, sorry to put you on the spot, you're going to hate me at the end of today. Talk about some of the previously accepted talks, or perhaps just the feel of this year and the vibe of this year, and then we'll talk about brainstorming some of these ideas.
Sure. Yeah, so you can tell by our theme, we've kept things very broad this year. So pay it forward is our theme. And there's so much that can feed into that. So it can be very much just like something that you're doing really well that you want to share so other people can learn and do similar things or improve the way that they do things. It can be, for us, there's no right or wrong in your approach. We'll have some that are so heavy and technical, and then we'll have more that help people. So I think that's the greatest part that I've seen evolve over the last few years. We've always spoken about people, process, and technology, and I think our submissions are definitely coming across all three of those now, and not just technology like they used to. So for me, I think we really look at ones that tell a good story, a good learning lesson. If you've done a project and you're willing to share the highs and lows of that project that got you there, if you've got a case study and those sorts of things, I think that's where people really love to be carried along on whatever you've learnt yourself. But yeah, then it could also be something very technical. If you're a person that is in that kind of world where you're learning some really new skills or trying some new products or software, that's also a good thing to share with other people so they can try things too.
Yeah, and that's a really good broad range. I mean, like I've recently seen talks where people talk about how they rolled out MFA in their organisation. The different the statistics, it was successful, some of the things that didn't work, some of the things that did work. So I mean, they're just great stories. Burnout in security, maybe it's been done to death, probably, but it's your experience. How did you get through it? There may be people that are going through that same thing. Maybe you'll present a topic at a time that it may seem 101 to you, but it's going to hit somebody hard there, and they're going to, and it might pull them out of something that they're going through. I go back to the line, don't be judge and jury of your own talk. If you're really, it's about, let's go back to this first thing. It's about passion. Some people think it's a bit of a word that they don't really care about. You can see when someone's passionate about something, their eyes light up, you start talking about a topic and you're all excited. That's what you need to be talking about. So what do you love about security? Have a think about that. Write a list. What's something that you love? And that might be something that you might want to talk about. Is there something that you're currently doing, in the workplace at the moment that you're obviously got permission to talk about? I mean, it may not be specific findings, but maybe there's something that you're doing in the cloud at the moment. Maybe it's pipeline stuff, or maybe it's creating a certain baselines or images, or just something that you think that you did that helped speed up a process, or maybe stop the manual the manual process of something, and now it's all automated. That might benefit the community. So that might be something that you might want to talk about. Maybe something that you're doing at home. I'll never forget our first B-Sides Melbourne that we ran. There was a first time speaker, and he set up this firewall lab at home. I think it was before COVID actually. and everything that he did to secure his home and everything. So again, just a war story of what he did at home and how he set everything up, and how he had this isolated and that isolated. It didn't really matter, but I think the point was that the community got a lot out of it because they could see themselves in his shoes. So you might think that's a 101 thing, but for this particular topic, it got massive bums on seats because people were genuinely interested. I'm not saying that you would present that for AusCert, but as an example, is there something that you're doing at home that, you might think somebody might benefit from? So it's about that, who could benefit from it. It's community focused because you're sharing your work. So I've just repeated what I've said. I always say that, when you're passionate about something and you think that other people could benefit from you talking about it, that's what you want to submit. That's what you want to submit because people can see that passion. Just don't talk about something that, I'm doing this and, people can see that you're not interested. You've got to be engaged in what you're doing. And this is what Beck was talking about before. We've got that vast variety. Maybe it's something new that you're working on. Maybe it's something, it could be technical, and it could be, or it could be a new process that you're working on. It could be a new policy that you're working on. It could be just a repeatable pattern. The other day, I think I wrote a new report template for writing security architectural reports. Maybe that might be conference worthy because maybe people just, do things ad hoc, standardizing things. That's what I'm saying, creating patterns so that people follow the same security patterns when they're doing implementation. That might be something worth talking about. So just think about something that you're working on that you've got benefit from. It doesn't just have to be in the technical realm. It could be anything, something that you've got benefit from that you think others will get benefit from. I think that's all I've got for this section. Beck, do you want to add anything else to this?
No, I think that's a great summary. And yeah, I think that number one topic, that passion, if it's something that you're excited about, that's what's going to come through your presentation. So definitely focus on what gets you excited and what you enjoy spending your time on. Then I don't think you can go too far wrong.
Yeah. I'm just conscious of time. What I want to do is I just want to go through the call for presentation outline, and then I'm going to see if there's any brave soul that wants to put their hand up, and we'll go through it. I think that's what we did last year, Beck, or did we do it midway? Can't remember. Doesn't matter.
Can't remember. This sounds like a good way to do it.
Yep. All right, so the AusCert process is a really easy process. There's not a lot of questions that you need to ask. So there's some other questions, but it's more just about you and your profile, and we'll go through that in a minute. But the main things that jump out at me as someone who's a review board member are probably these things. So your title, we'll explain why the title is important. The theme, so that people know if it's something that they, is, I suppose, in their interest group. Your presentation outline. Now, I've put that in a bracket called abstract. AusCert don't call it abstract, but I put it there because some people know that that's what it's referred to, and we'll talk about why that is absolutely critical, what the audience is going to learn, and additional details. And again, that for me is the next most important thing. So we'll talk about that. Just a bit of fun, just a bit of a fun slide. The first thing that you need to do is obviously fill out your presenter information. So when you've signed up, the first tab that you'll just get is about you. So put your information in. I'm not going to go through those details. It's not very complicated. I did it myself on the weekend. And then the second tab across is your presentation submission. All right. So let's kick off here. Let's talk about title. Okay, I've got that I'm interested meme here. This is really, really, really important because a lot of the people, you think about it, when you go to a conference, probably the first thing you look at is the title. If the title doesn't grab you, you're just going to keep walking. Okay, and I think, Beck, at AusCert, there's 4 streams running at the same time. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Right. So you're up against another 3 other people. So you want to make sure that people are going to look at your title and go, oh, wow, that's got my interest. So this is why I've said this is what people pay attention to the most. Okay. Your title, whilst it should be attractive, and I'm going to give some examples in a minute, You need to also make sure that you manage your expectations, all right, your audience expectations. So I make a joke here. If you say you're going to hack something, that's what people are expecting to see. So we talk about titles. These are some of the titles that I grabbed from this year's AusCert and the year before. These are real fun titles, you know. So you've got cyber criminals and serial killers. Similarities may astound you. You sort of look at it and go, oh, you know. The InfoSec talent hiding right underneath your nose, all right? That's going to grab someone's attention. Securing the games, well, because we know that the Olympics is coming. So this, you can see right away, this is a war story. Everyone knows Darren Pauly, you know, he's great. Writing with clarity. Straight away, he's got your attention. Simple steps to become a faster, you know, and more effective communicator. Digging for copper, unseen findings. So these are real catchy things. Some of the other ones that I've seen before at other conferences, things like pain in the NAS, you know, really funny. And then talking about investigation into NAS drives and things like that. There was another one that I saw, I think, just recently. I think it was called The Pool Party You'll Never Forget. And then it was about process spawning and things like that. But, you know, you can keep it a little bit fun. But the point is that you're there just to grab some attention. You know, it doesn't have to be, don't do the old fun and profit or, you know, all that stuff. Just, you know, have a little bit of a play on words and then say what you're going to talk about. But the point is that you want to get people's attention. You're up against 3 other talks. Simple, effective. I did have, damn it, I can't see my notes. I had something like, if you think of a book when you go into the old bookstores, not that there's too many of them existing, if we think of Prince Harry's book, imagine Spare, which is pretty, you know, pretty compelling versus, I don't know, the bio of, you know, Prince Harry compared to Spare. Just think of some of those book titles that grab you straight away. I had some examples, but I can't see my screen, so apologies for that. But I think I've got the point across. Okay, so this is the section. So when you're on the AusCert page, filling in your details, this is where you put your title in. So I thought I'd just put a bit of a flash screen of, you know, where that information would go. The next section is obviously picking the theme or the track. Obviously, you know, you've got a couple of choices here. If it doesn't fit that, do other. I think, Beck, I mean, obviously I'll get Beck to elaborate on this. It just gives, this is, a lot of the times this is for the review board as well, because people that are reviewing the talks have got different areas of expertise, and it helps them to sort of figure out what the track, feel and type is so that you can review it accordingly. But also people that are attending the talk knows sort of what track it lines up in. I don't know, Beck, if you want to add anything extra for this section here.
Yeah, it actually really helps us, because what we do is we try to structure the program and group things so that there's, you know, if there's a topic of interest, we'll try and group a track for you so that you can sort of stay in one room and see 2 or 3 presentations that will be more applicable to your knowledge and appeal. So for us, we find that's really helpful, and that'll also carry through to the conference website so people see the category and the theme. And so if they're looking for particular topics, it makes it easier for the audience to find what they're looking for.
Yep. Spot on. All right, so this is probably one of the most, this section and the details are probably the 2 that, as a review board member, I take the most, I give the most attention to. And I've got obviously the look at me. Again, this is really important, because other than the title, if you've got their attention, the next thing they're going to read is this. All right, so you've got their attention with the title. I always try to equate this to the blurb at the back of a book. So you go into a bookstore, the title's grabbed you. The first thing you do is you'll spin it around and you'll read the blurb at the back of the book. If the blurb hasn't got you hooked, you're going to put it back and you're going to move on. No different. So when you're thinking about this abstract, the first thing, a couple of things to remember is this is what will get published. So this is what people are going to decide whether to come and see the talk or not. And I've got some guidelines on the next slide on how to formulate it. Again, think of it, it's the blurb. It should make people think, well, yeah, I've had this problem. I want to see how they solved it. I'm really going to go watch this talk. So that's what you really need to be thinking about this. So when you're reading this, the one thing that I always ask people when people say to me, hey, Lydia, can you review my abstract? I'll go, well, would you attend it based on what you've written? And it really gets them to think. You know, it doesn't need to be War and Peace. It only needs to be a couple of paragraphs. So when you're writing your overview or your abstract, really think about the end user. You know, they don't have a lot of time to read your title and your abstract, so make sure it's sharp and to the point, and they know what they're going to learn. And this is why I always say, really think of it as a breakdown like this. You've got your problem statement, what you're going to talk about, and what you're going to learn. I can't tell you how many times I see abstracts that are written and go, join Lydia Giuliano, who works at blah, blah, as she goes through blah, blah with her 25 years of experience. Who cares? Put that in your bio. Not interested. Right? People want to hear about what you've been working on. I'm just trying to think of a topic off the top of my head. You might say, actually, if we use that security architecture one as an example, you might say, time and time again, you know, we review pieces of infrastructure and we're doing it in an ad hoc way. Perhaps the information that comes back looks different from the next, and it's really hard to determine if something is fit for purpose. Really making this up on the fly as I go here. But the point is that I've started off with a problem statement. The problem is that everything's a mess and there's no standardization. So by doing that, you've hooked them in to go, well, we face that problem as well. In this talk, I'm going to present how I created a template, how I structured, blah, 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 blah. And you are going to be able to use the same template. You can take it away with it. You can use the guidelines that I've put together to help standardize or structure or whatever. So so what you've done is you've hit a problem. You've talked about how you went about solving the problem and what they are going to learn by attending your talk. Now, that was probably the worst abstract I've just put together in 30 seconds. But I think you get the point. Start by talking about, and I've got some examples as well, start by talking about what the problem is so that they get sucked in. And then what you're going to talk about. So I always say create intrigue. What's the selling point? What are you going to give them? And then what will they learn? And look, I know I was probably being a little bit harsh when I say join blah, blah, and blah, blah. It's not that nobody cares. People do care. But you've got that very small window to get people interested in what your talk is about and why they want to know what you talk about. People know that you've got, 15, 20 years of experiences in your bio. Save it for your bio. Make sure that your overview is clear and concise. Okay, sorry, I just saw something else. So what I've got here is I've got some examples that I grabbed from last year's submissions. Okay, so apologies, I can't remember what the title is of this one, but you can see here you've got the hook, so the problem statement. So you can see that this person is saying, for the last few months, we've been tracking the copper Android banking Trojan, also known as blah, blah, blah. The malware caught our attention because of blah, blah, blah. During our analysis, we discovered blah, blah, blah. So they're discussing a problem, okay? In this presentation, we will uncover malware technical capabilities, including keylogging, PIN, blah, 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 blah. We will provide all needed technical details on how to uncover encrypted malware. So there's the selling points of going there. By going to this talk, oh gosh, hang on. We believe Android banking Trojans might be having a more serious impact than initially considered. That's why I believe it's important to share this investigation with the broader audience. So in this case, they've talked about the problem statement, they've talked about what they uncovered, and they're going to share those results with the audience so that you can go forth and be able to detect it as well. So you've got problem statement, the hook, selling points, and the lessons. There's nothing about their experience or who they work for. Nobody cares, but we just care about the talk. Here's another one, another goodie. Again, so looking at the problem, whether you like it or not, email is being used by individuals and businesses to send some pretty sensitive information, blah, 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 blah. I'm just speeding it up. That's why, not to be disrespectful to this particular submission. In this session, Jamie will present his findings on analysing SMTP, TLS, DANE, da, 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 da. So again, that's what they're going to be talking about. Attendees will come away with an understanding of the state of play, blah, 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 blah. So you know what you're going to walk away. It's very clear. Now, I appreciate that these two talks probably come from more of a technical angle, but it doesn't mean that you can't apply. Last year for AusCert, I had an example of a burnout one. It was just because it was a different conference. I wanted to keep it more AusCert focused. But again, reach out to Beck and I. We can give you some different examples. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the technical stream. It could be, you know, whatever you're working on. But the formula of, and let me just quickly go back, of what problem you were facing, because you're not going to submit to a conference unless you had something that was bugging you. There was something that you were scratching your head about, going, oh, this is frustrating. I need to be able to solve it. There's your problem statement. How did you go about solving it? You know, it might be running an awareness program. Maybe people, if you talk about physical security, maybe people weren't badging in. I know we don't do that anymore because no one comes to work anymore. Maybe people weren't badging in. So the problem might be that, you know, people are tailgating or people are letting their friends in and we don't actually know who's in the building. That's your problem statement. So what your talk's going to be about is how you went and solved it. Did you do awareness campaigns? Did you ding people as they, you know, were letting their friends tailgate in? And what were the results? Well, we reduced it from 60% tailgating to 5% tailgating. It doesn't have to be, as I said, something, you know, that's solving a technology problem. It could be a people problem. But these three rules still stick. Problem, how you went about it, and what's the give back? How are you going to improve what you did worked well, what didn't work well? Or maybe it's a framework, or maybe it's just your experience, but you're giving something back. You know, we talk about the gift. What gift are you giving them by coming to this presentation? A lot of people, when they talk, it's that last bit that at least when I do speaker mentoring, that I try to help execute. Great, you've got all this talk, yeah, so you've got all this detail, but what are you going to share with them? What are they going to walk away so they feel empowered that they've learned something? And that's why Monday rule, I can't take credit for that. A friend of mine taught me that personally, but if I see your talk on Friday, what am I going to rock up on Monday and go, I saw this talk on Friday, I can use this today, right now. So again, it's that takeaway. So again, doesn't have to be War and Peace, couple of paragraphs. It's AusCert, so probably maybe 2, if you want to go 3, probably not 4. That's why I just say, just depending on the conference, right? Just keep it simple, keep it interesting. Remember these rules, blurb at the back of the book. Would you go watch it? And you know, and just focus on these 3 things, and that, you know, you'll hit a home run. Have a look at some of last year's also accepted talks as well. I mean, this is where I got these from as well. They'll help you. Otherwise, you know, reach out to Beck and I. We can send you some other ones of what good looks like as well. This again is the spot of where you would put this in here. I wouldn't put it in here directly. I would always do a draft. I think at the moment I'm working with about 4 people on their presentations, and we do like a Google Doc share, and we go back and forth until they're ready, and then they put it in here. I spoke about this before, so there's a section to talk about key learnings and takeaway. I love this because you're going there to share your knowledge. So when in the section where it says, what are they going to learn? What are they going to gain? Again, think about that gift. Think about, you know, what they're walking away with. So it could be as simple as bullet points. It doesn't need to be War and Peace. When I fill out this section, I leave it as a bullet point. You know, they're going to learn to be able to configure advanced security, you know, features on Kubernetes, whatever it is, API security, how to manage stress, whatever that is, so that the review board know exactly, clear as crystal, how the audience are going to benefit from your talk. And don't ever think about it. Just, it comes from passion. You know what they're going to learn because you've already learned it. You already learned it. So you're going to share that. So again, this is the section where you would put that in here. Additional information, this is something that Beck added last year, so I appreciate Beck for doing that. Sometimes as a review board member, you've got an abstract, it might be talking, let's just talk about burnout. I'm burnt out, I don't want to, you know, you've got this whole presentation outline about burnout. But as a review board member, I might say, you know, but everybody talks about burnout. What makes this person's experience different? This is where you put it in here. So this is a section that's really important because it's not published. It's for the review board only, and it gives you an opportunity to say why you are the right person to be talking about this particular topic. It's not a copy and paste from the presentation outline. It's why you are the right person to be talking about this. So if you're talking about, we saw that malware example before, that person might say, I investigated this, blah, blah, blah. This is new because of blah, blah, blah. You're basically backing up that abstract with a little bit of evidence. So you're able to I guess just put some credence around why you're the right person to be talking about this. You may not do this. It's up to you. You don't have to do it. I don't know if it's a mandatory field or not. I encourage everybody to put something in here because it really helps the review board to understand that you actually know what you're talking about and you're the right person to talk about. Again, it doesn't, even if it's a 101 talk, it doesn't matter because it's your experience, and you can actually say, I did this at home, I spent hours doing this. So the review board turns around and says he or she has put in the time to be able to do this, or they have put in the time to do this. It's really, really, really important that you add that little bit of extra detail. So for me personally, this is where I know if I'm going to accept a talk or not. It's at this point right here, because you know whether someone's actually copying and pasting from somewhere, or if it's their real work or their experience or their war story or whatever. Something else I realise I haven't put in here because I can't see my notes. Actually, no, that's at the don't section, so I haven't forgotten about it. Apologies. I just want to stop there. I'm talking very fast. Beck, anything extra you'd like to add here?
No, I think you've covered most things that I can think about. For me, it's like, as the review committee, you've got to assume that they don't know anything as background. So they're really only taking into account what you've put in the abstract. So in the past, we've had some very high profile speakers that have been rejected because they didn't give enough information. We need to see in that abstract exactly what will be covered. We can't make any assumptions on prior knowledge or understanding. It really has to be reviewing what you've submitted. So I think that's where it's really important to tailor that abstract and have that hook and understanding about what you'll present and what people will learn.
And Beck, you actually make a really good point. I actually can't tell you, a lot of the times when I review a submission, I don't even look at the bio. I might look at the bio at the end. I'm not interested because I'm interested in what the person has got on offer. So don't be too hung up if you're a first-time speaker. Beck makes a really good point. I personally have given or not accepted or not suggested we accept a talk of a very, very, very well-known people in the industry, and it's not because they're not great speakers, it's because they haven't put in the time or the effort, like someone who's a brand new speaker. And it's one thing to be a good speaker. Sorry, it's one thing to be well known in the industry, but the content still needs to be at a certain standard, and it also needs to deliver what they say they're going to deliver. There's no point getting your PR person to do it, and just because you're John X, well, we've got to have them. It doesn't cut it. It needs to be fair for everybody. So, Beck, I appreciate you using that as an example. So don't let that, deter you as well. Everyone started somewhere. Everyone started somewhere. So if someone's too big to give you advice, or if someone's too, they're being smug about it, everyone started from the bottom. So I don't believe any of that rubbish. And that's why if any of you ask me for help, assuming I'm not with my kids or whatever, I'll always try to help because everybody needs to start somewhere. All right, and so this is the section. So Beck tells me that when you start filling out the details, it does open up. So don't let the fact that it looks like it's a single text field that you can only put in, 5 to 10 words. It does open up. So put it in a separate document. Make sure you're happy with it first, and then paste it into here. Okay, submission don'ts. This is something that my list keeps getting bigger, so hopefully it's not too long. I see this all the time. If your submission took 1 minute to write, I'm telling you, I can see that it took 1 minute to write. Take care. It's your work. If you love what you're doing or you love what you're going to present, take the time. I've been working with somebody on their talk probably for the last 6 weeks. We just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm not telling you need to take 6 weeks to write your AusCert talk. This is for a pretty big conference. But, you know, spend a week to 2 weeks putting it together, refining it, get friends to have a look at it and make sure it flows. You know, reach out to the committee. Maybe someone would be happy to look at it. It's not a conflict of interest. In fact, it's probably the other way around. You know, conferences want good talks. They want people who care. So, you know, a good conference is not going to say no if you ask for help. That's how I feel anyway. A bio that is longer than your submission. Just saying. So, you know, always leave your information in the bio section. No one, you know, it's sometimes it's nice to have it in the abstract, but it really deters away from what you're talking about. Keep the marketing material out. It will not get accepted. This is a community conference. You're not there to sell things, okay? I appreciate that some people work for vendors, and it's okay. You can be a vendor and speak at a conference, but remember, it needs to have a community feel. Not that here's something that I've worked on, and you can get it if you buy this product. You will get ripped off stage in 2 seconds. So don't do that. You submit the proposal. Don't let someone submit it because you're too busy. You're never too busy. This is your work. This is your presentation. Find the time. And don't use ChatGPT. Probably everyone's laughing in the background. I can't tell you how many submissions I'm reading at the moment. It just smells a bit bad. And I can't say we catch them all, but especially for conferences that are very research heavy, people are now starting to use ChatGPT to pull their research data from. That's not data. It's just collective information stored in the back end somewhere. So just bear that in mind. I'm not saying that you can't use ChatGPT to help your abstract look better. No problems. Everybody does that. But make sure that you're initially writing it. I'm saying don't use ChatGPT for your research. If you want to find out how many men or women went to the beach on Saturday, you go down there and you count them. Don't let ChatGPT do it for you, as an example. I know that was a bad example. And the things to do, you know, follow the guidelines, be yourself, don't be stressed. It's just fun and you're just there to have fun. And if someone's going to be an ass, most of the people in the audience are going to rip them apart and they don't deserve to be there. It's your work, your time, your commitment, you know, your work. So just be your authentic self, get it peer reviewed, reach out to us. And just have fun with it. Everybody has to start. Everyone has to start somewhere. So don't let your own fear hold you back because we all started with something. Now, the process, and I'm going to throw this to Beck in a minute, but accept versus decline. You can see I've got the reject marked through. A lot of people use this word. I hate that word, reject. If your submission gets accepted, happy days. Move on to the speaker mentoring program if it's your first time. If you feel comfortable not to use it, that's fine too. If it gets declined, it's not the end of the world. A couple of things to think about. It could be that the AusCert team might have space for, I'm making this up, they might have space for 5 threat CTI tracks, 5 only. And these 10 good ones, they may only be able to accept 5, but the others might be great as well, but the others are just might be a little bit more specific. So it doesn't mean that it's bad or it's a terrible talk. Maybe there's no space. And I know you guys have probably heard this time again. Just don't think that because a talk gets declined that there's something wrong with it. Unless it took 1 minute to write, it looks like it took 1 minute to write, or it's marketing material or something like that. Those don'ts could be a reason why it gets declined. But if you've really put your whole heart and soul into it, reach out for feedback. It could just be because there's a space issue, or maybe there's just not enough, or maybe there's too many talks on that particular topic. But I'm going to definitely say that once you get that feedback, if it's all positive or maybe there's slight improvement, maybe there's slight tweaks that you can make to it. There's so many conferences around Australia. You know, I mean, AusCert is great. There's lots of B-sides. There's lots of other talks for the Queenslanders up there. You know, there's CrikeyCon, there's B-sides B&E. There's so many great conferences everywhere. You know, don't lose heart. AusCert's a big conference, and a decline doesn't mean that you did something wrong. I really want to stress that. Beck, I want to just throw to you for a minute because I know you probably want to add something, a couple of extra bits and pieces to this as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The program committee has a really tough time. Look, it is one of my favorite days of the year when we get the whole committee together. Every submission is reviewed 4 times. So we try to get a real cross section of different reviews and different viewpoints so that we can have a really fair process. But it does come down to having to duke it out a little bit amongst the committee and what we can actually submit and accept. Like you said, it is definitely not a rejection. It is just that we can't fit every good submission in. It's a great problem to have that we get pulled with so much great input, but we only have, around 36 presentations, and we typically get, 150 to 200 submissions. So there's a lot of people that will receive a decline, unfortunately. But for us, it's about really making sure that we have some really interesting cross-section of topics. So don't let that dishearten you. I know that sounds like there's a lot of people getting declines, but that's the beauty, is like we try to find something for everybody, and we try to think about every delegate and what they want to go see. So we need a really good cross-section of different topics, different expertise, and different viewpoints to make a really great program. So where we can, we do try to share some of the feedback from our reviewers to see if there's ways that we can help you constructively change things in the future. But yeah, like you said, there is a lot of people that it just doesn't fit in the program, or we get to a point where we actually filter by those topics and then have to duke it out about what's going to make the program, because yeah, we could have 12 great submissions and 3 slots for it.
Yeah, it is really, really, really tough. I mean, I can't tell you. I know this year, one of the review boards that I was sitting on, we could only pick 3 topics. 3 talks, and there was 100 submissions on that one track, and I think there was number 4, and it was so good, and we had to decline it because we just didn't have the space.
Yeah.
And
we get creative with what we can fit in, but it's there's only so much. And the program committee, like, we have a great cross section. They're not just AusCert team members. We have people across industry that are on that program committee for us. And they give us a lot of their time and energy, and they take those reviews very seriously. So there's a lot of research done. They'll go off and they'll do some searching. They might check out your LinkedIn profile, see where you work, see, is this person an authority on the subject that they want to talk about. They do a lot of due diligence when they're doing their reviews. They're not just like, oh, yep, 2 paragraphs, move on. There's a lot of work goes into this too.
Absolutely. So I think this is a really important area to discuss, and don't let a decline, not propel you to submit to the next conference. Use it as ammunition to go, right, let's figure out what we learned. Maybe there was nothing that you could have done better. Maybe it just was a space issue. But I think the point that we're just trying to make is that there could be a number of factors, and it's never a reject. I really hate that word. I wish people could
sometimes I actually get creative, because we do member meetups and other small events around the country when we're traveling. So don't be surprised if you hear from us down the track where we go, actually, that was a great submission and we're going to be in town. Come be part of another AusCert event with us. So we try to get a bit creative where we can to make things work all year round too.
That's great. That's really cool. All right. So next steps. So oh God, we're already over. Great. I really wanted to brainstorm. I mean, Beck, I can hang around for another 15 minutes. I have a meeting at 11:30 Melbourne time, so I can hang around for another 15, 20 minutes if anyone wants to discuss ideas. Maybe we could turn the recording off and we can just have a candid conversation. But I mean, really, that's it for me. Is that okay? Maybe I'll stick around for the next 15, 20 minutes if anyone wants to have a chat with me. We can bump around some ideas. I'm just conscious of time because I appreciate people might have a hard stop at 10 or 11 or wherever you are in Australia.
Yeah, that sounds good, Lydia. We'll just see if there's anyone. If there's anyone that would like to brainstorm their topic, really happy, even if we are a dwindling crowd now, because I not understand people's time constraints. But yeah, if there's anyone that would like to work that through with Lydia and be an example for the few other people that are still around, that would be great.
All right. Well, look, I really want to thank everyone for coming.